Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I am your host, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you for joining us, whether this is your first episode or you've been with us for the over 240 episodes in our catalog, whether you're here in the United States or among one of the 50 plus countries, 600 plus cities across the world. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you for tuning in. If you can do us a big favor and subscribe, give us a big thumbs up. We'd really appreciate that. Uh, this episode today is going to be very interesting because I do like to learn, and learning an individual's journey of doing something different than I do is really something that interests me. And so, an author, somebody who spends their time writing, creating, is interesting, and we obviously support all the professions that are out there. And being an author and spending that time, like how does somebody get started? What do they do? What's the process? What got them interested? And so that's really what the show is going to be today. And I think you're going to find it very beneficial. I might learn some things, and just again, just to hear another person's story, and potentially inspire you to go on to maybe be an author or creator yourself. So today we are joined by guests. Obviously, we're here on the remote episode outside the studio, but we get the same distribution. So that is the good part in all this. So our main guest here with us today is Donatello R.S. Thank you for joining us, Donatello. And we also have David Solomon. He's here to ask a question or two, and we're just here to have a creator author conversation. So thank you both for joining us.
It's great to be here on Voices for Voices. It is super awesome.
Thank you, Donatello. Maybe we can just get started on when when you kind of realized that creating, being an author, that was something that might be of interest to you. That might be helpful to start there.
Well, it happened, I believe, back in 2015, and I just had this awesome idea I believe God gave me for a novel, which is still in the works, I will be honest, even up to this day.
Mhm.
I am getting back to work on it, I will be honest here, and since then, as I was writing rendition after rendition, more story ideas came up. And so I've been working to come up with a story, but I still had high school back then and college to deal with. But other than that, being an author and creator of just new stories and everything is pretty good.
Yeah. Uh, is there a specialty or a genre that you tend to gravitate towards, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, I'm a fantasy fanatic, as they say. You know, knights, elves, dwarves, dragons, castles, and whatnot. But I do have some sci-fi stories and a steampunk in the mix, which they're on the back burner since I've been mainly focused on my fantasy stories.
Yeah. How do you power through the stress that comes with just everyday things that we have to do to get to what we like to do, what we are what we're passionate about? How do you handle that? Do you have like a uh, is it just the goal, like, okay, once I complete these things, I'm gonna be able to get to what I wanna do, and so that helps me in and of itself. Uh, or is there another way that helps you?
Well, actually, you hit the nail right on the head for me because normally, because including the puppies, of course, I have to. We have puppies, just so you're aware,
Yeah.
and I have to get chores and take care of the dogs, help around the house and everything. But in the end, this is on me. I've been lazy a bit, like I just done all this. I don't want to do anything else. But when I do and push myself to like get back to work and get back to working on my stories, that's when I'm there. And God actually gave me a method as to my writing, like before I
Oh,
write everything.
yeah. Can you go into that if you don't mind?
Okay, well, what I do is that I get my stuff around, get my computer booted up and the story I'm working on. Then before I do that, I read God's word for a little while and pray and welcome him into this. Because he's the master author and overall creator, and he's more creative than any of us. So if you're writing a story and you welcome God into it, he may give you an idea or two that might make your story better than anyone else. Not better as in like, hey, I'm better than you and so like that. More like better in the story sense or unique in comparison to others.
Yeah, I really like that idea and how that really helps you. Uh do you compare your stories to others and go, oh, mine's not as good or mine's better? I'm just wondering it like that mindset that as you're going through that process, if at the end of the day, once things are finished, you look at that and say, uh, oh, my story's not that good, or maybe it's better.
Well, actually, I don't have that mindset. I just focus on like my work, my stuff that God's given me. And although obviously it's nice to think about the amazing stories that came before us and everything, it just your story. It's just the individual's story that they write. Some people can compare, like, hey, I can't compare to Tolkien or C.S. Lewis, but it's something to strive to. But in the end, it is just you. That's what God wants. He wants us to be creative and have our individuality within it.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. So if there's any competition, which there's not, but if someone were to think that way, it's just within ourselves of here, like you're doing the best you can, and the best you can is the best you can, and regardless of, like I said, stories that have come before that, when we look at, and that's hard to do with to get into that mindset of like being in competition, like, okay, yeah, I put as much energy and time and into this, and to be at the end of the day be okay with that and not beat ourselves up about it, like, oh, it there, why did I do this, or why did I go this route? That the way you have it laid out in your process, that 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 doesn't even come up.
Yeah, I mean, many authors probably have like their own process in writing, but for me, it's about putting God first before you begin because I will tell you this, sometimes when I'm like deep into writing, I go into a zone
Mm.
and as they say, and I basically just write and it just comes to me. I'm believing that is from the Lord because He can give you ideas that you wouldn't even think about and show you the whole scene that's going on, like almost a movie in your mind, and like show as best you can as you're writing it for words rather than pictures and everything.
Yeah, talking about that, do you have an interest on the road and writing for film, or is your wheelhouse, where are you at, what you're doing, or
Well,
anything else?
Well, first off, I will be honest, I'm technically published. I have four short stories, two in two different anthologies, two for fantasy and two for sci-fi. And they're out there
Excellent.
right now, which is great. And if you want, I can show you the link so on Amazon so you can and everybody else can like see those stories. But as for right now, I am still working on a novel, and courtesy of our good friend here, David Solomon, he actually is helping me edit my completed novella. This will be my first published book, a novella, not a novel, a novella. And I'm hoping to get it published out there soon. It just needs editing and my fiance to finish the illustrations for it, and she does a great job. The illustrations alone would have you captivated in the world as well as the words.
Oh, good. That's great. Did you have a question?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So like, because I am editing that, um, I've seen a lot of work in the writing world, and I haven't seen work like yours in a very long time. And being a judge in the contest coming up, Kingdom's Got Talent, which will be right here on Voices for Voices. It's very unique for us to see that that type of genre that you hit because it's unheard of, and it's really cool to see someone try to pull this off. What inspired this idea, and bringing this type of mythology and just overall this type of story to life in your way? What inspired that?
Well, to answer your question, David, God gave me a new perspective on vampires. I mean, let me ask you both this.
Okay.
In obviously the writing world, what do you see vampires as? Like in a whole, like each different piece, movies.
Yeah, good question. So I worked a little bit on Vampire Diaries, and a lot of us were Christians on there, believe it or not. And so a lot of us left. We did Legacies later on, and there is some Christian mythology, but then a lot of us left. um, Vampires in general have been made as demonized, and seen as demonic. And actually, it's really interesting. In 2011, God gave me a story called AX, and it was to retell the story of Saul who became Paul, only
Mm,
in a vampire setting. And that's when it really opened my eyes that vampires are not what we think. And then the series I'm doing now, I am doing a vampire series. And so when I saw yours, I went, huh, this is an interesting take on a genre that has been beaten to death, but Christians don't touch on it. We see the Amish vampires in space, and I read that. Uh, good friend, uh, good friend of mine, Sarah, she did a book about vampires becoming Christian right before they die, and then they become a vampire. What does that look like?
mm.
And and so that was really interesting to see your perspective. And so I'm curious, like, what leaned you into choosing that?
Well, the idea just came to me, and to answer your question, like you gave a great answer. I will be honest. Yes, we do see vampires as demonic and creatures of darkness, but in like other writing senses, many of them are like attractive, non-threatening teen vampires.
Right.
Yeah, like that in Twilight and such. But God showed me what they are. They're magistrates ruling in the King of Demons' stead in the physical world. So, like, picture like an empire, like the Roman Empire. They have like magistrates ruling over each region in the kingdom's stead and everything. So in this realm, in my novella, which you're editing, vampires are ruling in these areas for the King of Demons in his place.
Okay. Okay. And so like that alone was a really cool plot. Um I've never seen that done. So like as a judge, not in this contest, but if I was looking for something creative that hasn't been done in the genre, that would earn you that because nobody targets vampires and no one targets werewolves in the Christian fiction genre.
Basically, what this novella is, and I found a YouTube video explaining like the subgenres of fantasy. This
Absolutely.
classifies what?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this novella of mine classifies as a dark fantasy. So obviously, with vampires, werewolves, ghosts, and such like that in a fantasy world like setting. So I'm actually I give credit to God because I couldn't have created something like this. Oh, and for those out there that do not know, the title of my novella is called Silver Lining.
Is is finding a title hard, easy? And I guess how do you go about that? Like what do you want to strike in the reader to spark their interest in wanting to read a description and going forward like that?
Well, to be honest, at first it was just a name that came to my mind. You see, I watched the new Wonka movie with
Mm.
Timothy as the main actor of Willy Wonka, and his candy he made was called Silver Lining to help you like see the faint ray of hope beyond a shadow of despair and everything. And that name just,
Okay.
yeah, and that name just it just clicked in my mind considering that my main protagonist is a knight garbed in pure silver armor. And as many know, silver is one of the
Yeah.
substances that can kill or hurt a vampire.
Yeah, that's
I noticed
incredible.
I noticed that right from the get-go, and it was very curious. Um so like what made you interested in the Christian fiction movement? Like I know we on on uh on Realm and like we got connected, but what made you find Christian fiction and fantasy?
Well, well, one story in particular that would it comes down to another Christian author I know. I'll have to remember and look up his name again, but he made a trilogy that I fell in love with called the Azula trilogy.
Oh yeah, okay, very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
and this trilogy, it was basically the blueprint as to how I wanted to write. Like I've been looking for something like this for a while. Like God is in this world, yeah, but there's magic, there's sorcery, there's elves, dwarves, and a whole mess of different creatures that would make you flee in terror or
Yeah.
so like that.
And that's what I was wondering. I always ask that because it's always interesting to see who inspires us as Christian authors because they always leave an impact on our writing. You can always tell that, oh, that touched me, and I want to do something like that. And so,
It touched me to the end of the third book, and I
yeah,
wanted more. And he did tell me that he's planning on making more to add to the series and everything, but it was years ago when he told me, so he's probably been busy, obviously.
no, I
But
yeah,
his
absolutely.
series is just struck me like finally, this is what I've been trying to write for a long while.
Wow. I'll tell you, Christian fantasy, it's a hard market, but it's getting better and better, and it's getting more open and open. And, there's quite a demand going on now for it. And so I applaud you for doing something that's never been done. You know, that that speaks volume. Um, what is your vision going forward?
There we go.
Uh, what is your vision going forward for your series? Where do you want your story to be? Like, do you see it on bookshelves? Do you see it as a comic book? You mentioned the art. I happen to know your fiance really well. She's a great artist in the industry. A lot of authors go to her for book covers. Amazing. Shout out to Eve Bloor. Guys, if you ever need some art, look her up. She's awesome. She's been on the show. Really great artist. If you need book covers, go get her.
So to answer
Um,
your question, I do want this book on shelves one day.
okay.
Well, soon, hopefully, because I've been trying to get this story published for a long while.
Mhm.
But God did tell me to finish my novel that I've been working on for years, so I'm making sure to get that done now.
Absolutely. So, like, would you see it as an anime? What genre would you want this to go from book to screen? Like,
Well, I kind of want it to be like the Hobbit movies.
okay,
Yeah, like with partly CGI, but obviously with the actors and such like that. But basically, just bringing the story, that is just a dream come true. Like the idea of bringing it to the screen. I mean, I can see it one day, and actually, I can see my novel I need to finish becoming a film one day. But at the moment, I'm just starting small. Like
gotcha.
baby steps, get the idea out, share the story, and then eventually maybe God will land me this idea.
I applaud that. I applaud that. So, going forward, what is your main goal? Like, what's a goal to finish the story? Like, how long do we have to wait till we see it?
You mean the novel or Silver Lining?
Silver lining.
Well, to be honest, it technically is done. And
Okay.
like when we talked, you're editing it, which is great. So that's
I
another
am.
bit. And then when my fiance finishes the other illustrations, but she's been very busy, so you obviously can tell that.
I can understand that one.
Yeah, so eventually when it's all finished,
Mhm.
I'm going to try and find a publisher that is looking for something new in dark fantasy or just fantasy in general. Like, hey, this is something that's never been done. This knight is questing to slay a vampire that dwells in a dark castle atop a mountain.
Now, if you for like this contest, if you did that, what would you say makes you stand out from all other Christian fantasy authors?
I welcome God into my work.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
And
What
it's
what
true.
what else? I'll challenge you this. What else makes you stand out? Your story. What are you doing that no other Christian fantasy author does?
Hmm. I think what I'm doing is tackling a certain genre that I unintentionally tackled a certain genre that most Christians tend to either avoid or just ignore. I mean, heck, I
Love
never
that.
pictured myself writing a vampire story before.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a
Mhm.
good answer. So, I've mentioned this. I wrote you a pitch last night. Um, because you're targeting a genre that's not really been hit, you have potential to go really far. So I want the audience to know that listens, um, it is true. This is just a novella, but that is how masterpieces are made. Sometimes it's not about the quantity, but the quality. And so if someone makes a short story, I'll give you a very good example. Netflix's First Kill. Yes, it is a lesbian vampire series, but there's a point. It was a story in an anthology. And the anthology published about 60 short stories, and Netflix picked that one because everybody was talking about it. Not because it was lesbian,
Hmm.
but because of the way they did it. And so First Kill went on to be the number one successor on Netflix and vampire shows. And it surpassed the Vampire Diaries. And
Actually,
so I see a similar thing going on here. You have a short series like First Kill with a concept that's never been done. And with the right dynamics and the right people, you can really hone in and bring your vision to life. So you have a powerful story, but it's limited right now because it's a short story, and that's fine. The shorts are sometimes the best.
it's a short one-time story. That was my original goal.
Right. And that's what First Kill was. So a lot of similarities. Um, but my point is you are gifted, there is potential, and I would say you're looking at one of the next Christian fantasy authors, whether in a contest or whether I see you on a bookshelf in Barnes and Noble. I do imagine I'm going to see your book that I'm editing
Okay,
right
the Lord
now.
opens the right door.
Yeah, I see the novella in Barnes and Noble because you're targeting a genre that has never been targeted.
Hmm. So, Justin, any other
Yeah.
questions like you want to ask me? Though I'm glad we're tackling my novella, obviously, but we obviously
Yeah.
need to tackle some other questions.
Yeah. How about inspiration to other authors, other individuals that find creating interesting, don't know where to start, think that, oh, I have this short story just talked about, or uh, I I see myself being an author, but I'm going through my education and I've got a C or a D on the paper, and it just tears me down from where you're at and where you're going. If you could talk to somebody that is 10, 15, 20 years younger, or I'm not sure your age, so I don't want to. But somebody that's into those formative years that are is like, yeah, I enjoy this. I want to do this. I think this is interesting. But how do I start?
Well, I will say this from my experience, give it to God first. Like before you even write, just spend like a couple minutes in his word and welcome him into your project through prayer. And then, of course, get to writing. And who knows, God may actually guide you in the right direction as to where your story should go because his ways are better than us.
Yeah,
I can
but
I
most
can
definitely.
on that because I actually do the same thing. Before I sit down, I will write, but I will pray before I write. And I'll say, God, guide me on what to write, on what to do with the story. Be honest, there are entire stories that I've turned down because God said, you know what? I don't want you to do that. I've turned down $100,000 contracts because God said, nope, not today. And then he blessed me the next day with a $200,000
Ooh,
contract.
great.
So
That actually is a huge blessing. That goes to show that obedience is what God wants.
yeah, so if you obey God, God will bless you, and if you don't, man,
You'll regret it.
yeah, yeah, amen. Um, you mentioned that you're writing a novel, and I barely know a lot about it. Can you share with us a little bit about that journey of your novel?
Of course. It's called The Legends of Celestial. That's its name, first off.
Mhm.
And ironically, the main character is named Donatello, and I love that name so much. That's how I got my pen name and everything.
I got you.
Yeah, so the story is literally about a young author who had just completed his very first fantasy novel, and he was super excited to show his writing tribe everything that he has put into this, and it's taken him years to finish. But what happened next completely stunned him. The book opened by itself as he was leaving his study, and he was sucked into its pages. And as the book closed, revealing its title, The Legends of Celestial, he's now sucked into the world of his own story, and he goes on this fantastic adventure.
Ah,
Oh,
I take it back. Silver lining is great. That is even more. My point. So you have an entire novel there that sounds like it could be even more potential than the other
That's what
two.
I'm referring to. Yes, that's why God is telling me to finish it, and what
Yeah,
God will
yeah,
allow me to
dude,
do with that.
absolutely. That's never been done either. I could see that going the way of Jumanji a little bit.
Sort of, but it's more like well, you may have heard of this movie, or it's also a book too. You may have heard of this. It's more like the reversal of Inkheart.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I seen that movie, and the guy like reads characters and stuff out of the books and everything. That actually is super cool.
yeah. It would be like, well, so the new Jumanji, the producer of that did that, and so it had a lot of those same ideas in it, and so I could see that absolutely. I
Yeah, because I mean, like they literally got sucked into the world of Jumanji and in the new movies, and that I can see. And now we finally understand what Alan Parrish literally experienced in there. I mean, they even showed a base that he actually built where the one player was trapped in there for years.
Yeah. So like again, you're touching two genres now that have never been touched. And that's going to go far in the Christian fiction market and the genre as a whole.
Well, with God's help, it hopefully will.
I'm sure it will. If God, I tell authors this all the time. If God gives you a story, it's not there to sit dusted on a shelf. And so like a lot of authors get just depressed or like, oh, the market's not there. Oh, it's there.
Or
It's
they
just
get,
when,
in my case, a little lazy and don't and barely work on it at
right.
all.
Well, and procrastination plays a big role. And you just have to, one thing I learned is pray about that and say, God, give me the strength to do this. I need your strength today to finish this. Help me to finish this according to your will. And it goes a long way listening to him and leaning on his understanding and not ours. And that's really guided me into where I'm at. And, I see a lot of the same in your story reading Silver Lining alone.
we're getting close to the end. I want to give Donatello the opportunity
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
cover
Absolutely.
anything we haven't covered, how people can learn more about you, and as your projects progress, how they can be involved in purchasing those and
Well,
being a part.
eventually the purchase thing will come around, but as of now, I have nothing but just my Instagram account, and just my thoughts and my stuff that I've already done so far.
Okay. What's your Instagram handle for uh those that are interested?
It My handle is Blizzard Stormer,
Okay.
and
You said
you'll literally see like an Ice Knight holding a book in one hand and a sword in the other. It should be easy to find. But I will be honest, I do have a thing where I'm screening the people that watch me because, well, heck, I don't know them. So
correct.
I just been obviously careful, just to fair warn.
Yeah. And I think that's important with anything, especially creators that uh, the work was meant for certain audience, certain
Yeah,
demographics, and when
they want to basically be the author's new BFF and everything like that. Eh,
correct.
yeah.
Well, Donatello, did we
Also,
cover?
another thing,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're looking
Please.
for new creatures, or creatures that haven't even been done in the story, you can use this.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that out. The Encyclopedia of Magical Creatures. Yes.
Yeah. It showed many creatures that I never even seen in the fantasy story at all. And a few of them I actually used. I still obviously have my own like make made up creatures, of course, but still there are just some that are pretty interesting.
Cool. Well, Donatello, we'll finish up here. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and look forward to learning more and following your path.
Thanks. I'll